Beautiful day, loves. Let's get started. Most people will say that melanin is skin color. Some will say hyperpigmentation or dark spots. Maybe you've heard that melanin is what makes black skin age so beautifully. And all of that is true. Melanin does all of those things. But what if I told you that those are honestly the least interesting things that melanin does in your body? What if I told you that melanin is not just a pigment, it is a biochemically active compound that functions in ways that overlap significantly with how your hormones function? That it has roles in your nervous system, your endocrine system, your sleep, your stress response, and your emotional regulation. That is where we are going to explore over the next 10 episodes. That's what we're going to explore. This is the Melanin Deep Dive, and we are starting at the very foundation. What melanin actually is, where it comes from, and why the conversation most people are having about it barely scratches the surface of what it actually does. So let's start here. Melanin is a biopolymer. It is produced in specialized cells called melanocytes. Those melanocytes live in the basal layer of your skin, which is the deepest layer of the epidermis. It lives in your hair follicles, in your eyes, and this is where it gets really interesting. In your brain, your adrenal glands, your inner ear, and various organs throughout your body. Interested yet? The melanocytes in your skin produce melanin through a process called melanogenesis. So, genesis, the beginning. The key enzyme involved is tyrosinase, and it converts the amino acid tyrosin into the melanin that gives your skin its color. That is the part that most textbooks cover. But what they often leave out is what happens to melanin once it has been produced, because it does not just sit there. Melanin is also an antioxidant. It absorbs ultraviolet radiation and dissipates as it heats before it can damage DNA. That is why the higher melanin concentrations offer greater photoprotection. Though I want to be clear that photoprotection is not immunity, and we will come back to that in the UV episode. Melanin also chelates metals, meaning it binds. Chelating means to bind. It binds to heavy metals like iron, copper, and zinc within the body, and it helps to regulate their availability. This is a function that almost nobody talks about, and it has significant implications for inflammation, oxidative stress, and cellular health. In populations with higher melanin concentrations, our community, this metal binding capacity has a direct relationship with how we experience certain inflammatory conditions. Isn't that interesting? I found all of that to be extremely interesting. So let's move into the hormone conversation, the hormone and melanin conversation. So here's where we'll spend some real time on this, because this is the piece that changes the frame entirely, completely. Okay? Melanin is synthesized from tyrosine, and I know I was saying that wrong earlier. I don't know why. I know these words from tyrosine, which is the same amino acid that is also the precursor to dopamine, norepinephrine, and epinephrine. Okay? These are your major catecholamine neurotransmitters. They regulate mood, stress response, energy, focus, and the fight or flight cascade in your nervous system. The melanocortin system, which we will go deeper into on the next episode, is a neuroendocrine system that uses melanin-derived peptides to regulate an extraordinary range of functions in the body. Appetite, metabolism, sexual function, inflammation, the stress axis, and immune response. All of these systems are modulated by compounds that are directly connected to your melanin pathway. When I say melanin functions like a hormone, what I mean specifically is that the biochemical pathway that produces melanin is inextricably linked to the pathways that produce your stress hormones, your mood regulations, and your inflammatory mediators. You cannot talk about one without the other. And oftentimes the communications and the informations are missing that connection. Here's why it matters so profoundly for Black women specifically. If you are in perimenopause or menopause, if your estrogen is declining and your stress response is becoming more reactive, you're responding to everything kind of stresses you out. If you're dealing with mood shifts, sleep changes, and we know about sleep deprivation, increased inflammation, that's me, or skin changes that feel disproportionate to what you expected. Some of what is happening within the same biochemical neighborhood as your melanin production is the culprit. These systems are talking to each other, and that is absolutely a conversation that we need to have. So let's talk about the different types of melanin and why it matters, why any of this makes any difference at all. There are three main types of melanin, and you may be familiar with these, you may not, but hopefully you'll learn something new. Understanding the differences between them is actually clinically relevant for how we understand skin behavior, sun response, and certain health patterns. So the first is eumelanin. Eumelanin is the dominant form in people with darker skin tones. It comes in both black and brown variants. Eumelanin provides the highest degree of photoprotection. It has the strongest antioxidant activity of the melanin types, and it is the form most associated with methylating, right? Bonding. And it also offers neuroprotective functions that we mentioned earlier. When we talk about melanin in the context of black or darker skin, eumelanin is the primary type that we're talking about. Excuse me. Photomelanin, phenomelanin, Pheomelanin is the reddish brown form, and it's found in higher concentration in lighter skin tones and red hair. Here is something that is not widely discussed. Pheomelanin, when exposed to UV radiation, can actually generate reactive oxygen species, meaning it can contribute to oxidative stress under certain conditions. So you'll think about that. This is one of the biochemical reasons that lighter skin tones experience different sun-related damage patterns than darker skin tones. It is not just about protection levels. It is about the chemical behavior of the melanin type itself. Neuromelanin is produced specifically in the brain. Specifically. In the substantia nigra and the locus coeruleus, these are dopamine-producing, norepinephrine-producing regions, respectively. Neuromelanin's relationship to dopamine metabolism is an active area of research. It's been active for a long time. Okay? Its relationship to neurological conditions that disproportionately affect certain populations is something we will revisit in the neurotransmitter episode. We're going to go deep into melanin and we're going to connect it. I'm going to bring it all home. You're going to be able to associate it with your skin signals, with the face mapping, with the organs in our body, the systems in our body. We're going to connect it all. Okay? So let's bring it back to something really practical. Okay? What does any of this mean for how you care for your skin? First, it means that your skin color is not just an aesthetic characteristic. It is an expression of a complex biochemical system that is doing active work in your body every single day. The melanocytes in your skin are connected to the same signaling systems that regulate your stress response, your inflammatory pathways, and your nervous system. So it matters. All of it matters. It is not just a metaphor, it's physiology. Secondly, it means that changes in your skin's pigmentation, the reactivity, its healing patterns are not isolated events. Remember, we talked about the body works as a whole. When melanin production changes, whether that means increased hyperpigmentation, uneven skin tone, or the kind of dullness we talked about in month one, those changes are downstream of something. It's coming from somewhere, in other words. They are signals in exactly the way that skin signals teaches. And third, for women in perimenopause and menopause specifically, the interaction between declining estrogen and the melanocortin system, it creates a very specific skin environment. Okay? The estrogen and the melanocortin pathway both influence melanocyte activity, inflammatory response in the skin, and collagen metabolism. Okay? So a lot of times taking all these supplements, you are treating a symptom when you're not getting to the root of the issue. And what do we do here? We get to the root of the issue. When estrogen changes, the melanin system responds. That is why menopausal skin behaves so differently from the skin that you had at 35. I know mine does. And why addressing it requires understanding both systems. Okay? So let's talk about what's coming. This is only the beginning. I know that was a lot of information. Feel free to listen to it again and then put your questions below if you have questions. We are going to go deep. This is just the beginning. We have covered what melanin is, where it's produced, it's an antioxidant and metal chelating functions, its relationship to the hormone and neurotransmitter pathways, the differences between eumelanin, pheomelanin, and neuromelanin, and what all this means for skin behavior in midlife, so that perimenopause, menopause. And we've barely cracked the door open. We have so much to talk about in this series. So in the next episode, we will go into the melanocortin system specifically. Because once you understand how that system works, you will also understand why so many things that seem unrelated are actually connected to your body. Appetite regulation and skin inflammation. Didn't know that. Stress response and pigmentation changes. Immune function and the way your skin heals. It's all one system and it is beautifully extraordinary. It really is. This is something not often talked about, but we're going to talk about it on this channel. We're going to go deep, and there's so much more. So, subscribe so you do not miss a single episode of the series. Take your free skin signals assessment. The link is below because everything that we are talking about in this series connects directly to what your skin is already showing you. You just need the map to read it. It looks good to feel good. So love you. I am Chantel and this is Love You Studios Holistic Wellness. Until next time, you take care.